Greetings, ladies and gents. Steve here on Geek Boulevard, giving you your weekly movie review. I finally saw, with bated breath, the live-action remake of the animated film How to Train Your Dragon. Does this remake measure up, if not succeed, its animated counterpart? Let's find out. How to Train Your Dragon is directed by Dean DeBlois, who was also co-director of the original film. It is rated PG with a runtime of 2 hours and 5 minutes. On the rugged Isle of Berk, a Viking boy named Hiccup defies centuries of tradition by befriending a dragon named Toothless. However, when an ancient threat emerges that endangers both species, Hiccup's friendship with Toothless becomes the key to forging a new future. Together, they must navigate the delicate path toward peace, soaring beyond the boundaries of their worlds and redefining what it means to be a hero and a leader. Now, to be totally truthful to you, this review will most likely come off as biased, as I'm a huge fan of the original film, and it's impossible for me not to really compare this to the animated version. So if you're looking for a more well-rounded, unbiased opinion, I suggest that you search for other reviews with that process in mind. I'd like for you to stick around though to still see how I felt overall, but I totally understand if you choose the former. Let's start with the positive, shall we? Mason Thames, our leading man who takes over the role of Jay Baruchel in the live-action version of Hiccup, I thought he was enjoyable. I thought he did a solid job as the character, and he still presents that awkwardness that was so prevalent in the original and is pretty much inherently a part of Hiccup's personality. That's just a part of his character. His scenes with Toothless, despite being a CGI dragon that isn't really there, those moments were still heartwarming just as much as they were in the original. And I really enjoyed seeing their bond unfold more and more as the film went on. Speaking of Toothless, it's not much of a shocker to say that he's easily the heart of the film, the best part, and rightly so, as he just steals the movie right from his first moment on screen with Hiccup. He's so adorable to look at, and even more so in this different type of medium, and I'm glad that he wasn't drastically changed in any way, as I'm sure it would have caused a ton of riots in the streets otherwise. So good on DreamWorks for sticking with what works. And speaking of sticking with what works, Gerard Butler, who voiced Stoic the Vast in the original, Hiccup's father, returns to physically portray the character in live action, and I have to say, this was also the right move. Stoic has such a mightiness to him. He's like a walking myth, essentially. Only someone as mighty as the character himself can really handle that character with equal strength. And Gerard Butler absolutely embodies Stoic. He gives his all, and even more so in this, I feel, than in the original, and I liked the eventual evolution that he and Hiccup have as father and son by the end. John Powell, who composed the score for the original, he returns to compose the score for this one, and rightly so, as that music is just so epic in scope. I can't tell you how many times I heard that familiar music watching this that I got goosebumps of just it playing in the background while Hiccup and Toothless are just soaring through the sky. It's a score I go back to pretty frequently, and I'm just glad it wasn't drastically changed, as it's just as much a character in the film, and it really sells those moments of Hiccup and Toothless. But there are problems with this live action remake that I feel I should address, as I personally took issue with them. Firstly, and maybe it's just me, the delivery of dialogue here for most of the characters, it just didn't feel quite right for some reason. I constantly just felt myself comparing the delivery of some of those same lines and thinking, I liked how that was done better in the original. Same with the jokes, most of them, they just felt rather flat and not really funny to me. I'm not quite sure if it's perhaps maybe the characters just were maybe a bit miscast, I don't know. But just a lot of the dialogue, it just felt very stiff and forced most of the time, and it kind of just soured the experience for me a little bit. While the CGI on the dragons was great, it's when we get the live actors interacting with CGI backgrounds or backdrops is when it tends to look not so great. And there were a lot of moments where I noticed that, and I guess I should just, I don't know. I guess I should just accept that that's always going to be the case. Marvel Studios is notorious for this. I just feel like CGI in general has just gotten worse and worse as time has gone on, which is just crazy to think about. When you have underpaid and overworked VFX workers, what do you really expect? But that's a whole other can of worms. I also think the chemistry between Astrid and Hiccup, it just wasn't really there. I didn't really get that romantic spark. And that's odd because I've watched interviews with these two, multiple interviews, and their chemistry is just undeniable. Like, they're joking with each other, they're laughing, like they're bouncing off of each other really well. So I found it rather odd that I never got that spark with them as the characters. It just didn't make sense. I think Nico Parker as Astrid was good, don't get me wrong, but I just did not get that romantic chemistry from them whatsoever. So that was a bit disappointing. I think overall I'm gonna give How to Train Your Dragon a score of 2 out of 5. Despite some great things in this live action remake, like the casting of Mason Thames as Hiccup, Gerard Butler, composer John Powell, and of course Toothless, this is a largely unnecessary remake that just doesn't quite measure up. It's largely shot for shot the same, which isn't really a bad thing, but those same moments were just done so much better in the animated film. Personally, you know, I've never really been a fan of remakes of animated films. Disney's obviously been trying to remake their entire catalog of animated classics, and you know, their most recent ones being Snow White and Lilo and Stitch, which both haven't really done so well at the box office. I can only really recommend this to families who have not seen the original and want to take their kids this weekend to see something fun. I don't see how your kids don't walk away happy with what they watched. At the end of the day, you know, we have two versions of this story. We have the live action version and the animated one. If you enjoyed the live action one after seeing it, perfect, great. You have something about that source material that you enjoy. Me personally, I just happen to prefer the animated one. But what did you guys think of this live action remake of How to Train Your Dragon? Did you enjoy it? Do you feel the same as I do? Or do you think maybe I was being a little bit harsh? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Remember to like the video if you enjoyed what you're watching, sub to the channel, tick the bell, the whole deal. Thank you guys so much for watching. Until next time, stay classy, stay geeky, and I'll catch you in the next video.
Come on! Here it comes! The terrible terror! It's like the size of my...